Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day. Wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call. What's good, everybody? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Happy Wednesday, another hump day. Yay, yay. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to do that every time it's Wednesday. But hopefully y'all having a great day, like I said. Man, oh man, what a day, what a day, what a day. It's been a good one so far. For me personally, it's been a good day. Nothing too much going on my side. We got some much needed rain. Actually, we actually got a lot of rain, which is absolutely needed because it hasn't rained here for like 10 years. It seems like. Not really, but it seems like it. But yeah, how's everybody's day going? How's everybody's day going? If you're watching over on Twitter or X, whatever y'all call it nowadays, whatever the cool kids are calling it, X, I do believe is what it's going by now. If y'all are over there watching, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that retweet button, leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. Let me know what y'all are up to today. Please do that for me. Definitely appreciate you. And we got Crypto Clip Shane coming in for 21 months. My goodness, 21 months. Happy Hump Day, Justin and family. Absolutely, definitely appreciate that, brother. It's wild to think that we've been doing this for 21 months, monetized for 21 months. And Shane, you've been here for the entire time, from the beginning. Absolutely, definitely appreciate you, brother. Most definitely appreciate you. But yeah, let's jump into it. Let's see what we got going on. We saw the bubbles up a while ago. And we take a look at those. Not a whole lot. ETH's up 0.2%. Not a whole lot of action on the bubble chart. Let's take a look over here at CoinMarketCap, see what we got going on the whole. We can take a look, see what the prices are looking like. Overall market cap for crypto is sitting there at 1.08. I think that's exactly where we were yesterday when we had our stream. So nothing too crazy. Ethereum and Bitcoin kind of sitting there. Bitcoin's not really moving. Hasn't really moved. We look at it here on the day chart. Not a lot. Yesterday at this point in time we were at a 1.16 or 27.16. Today right now we're at 27.16. So literally at the exact same spot. We've had a little ups, we've had some downs. Nothing too crazy though. I think we dipped below. 27 for just a minute, and then came right back up. Dipped below again, and then came right back up. So hopefully we can maintain that. I don't see a whole lot of anything happening in the next couple of days. I don't see a lot happening. Ethereum kind of sitting there down 1% on the day, nothing too crazy. Still in the mid, the 1600, mid 1600, sitting today right now, sitting there at a $1,627 market cap. So not a whole lot. BNB sitting there at 216, XRP up 1% on the day, up almost 8% on the week, which is really nice to see. But almost to 52 cents, so not bad there. And the rest of the market kind of the same. You're going to have some that are down like TON, and then you're going to have some that are up like Solana. So not a lot of movement going on at all in the markets today. Kind of another sideways day, which I'll take sideways more than a down. I'll take sideways more than down. That's just my personal preference. I would rather see sideways than going down, obviously. But like I said, we got not much going on. It's been we are in the slowest time for crypto, and except for just about to get to that. Shane coming in with the link talking about the Fed decision for September. Let me go ahead and see what that link is. Let me get over here to my YouTube. Get over to my channel and see what it's looking like. See what it's looking like over there. See what you got. Pause that so I don't have to listen to myself. Okay. And so we'll actually pull that up right there because that is kind of the big talking point that I was going to get into. Like I said, not a lot going on in crypto, but we do have some announcements coming from the Fed and things like that, which was going to be my main talking point for today. But let's get into it. Here's the link that Shane just shared with us. If I can find it. Live updates: the Fed skips a rate hike in September. So not bad. I think we might be kind of on the beginning of maybe on those maybe slowing down on raising the rate. But the Federal Reserve skipped a rate hike in September, keeping the benchmark funds rate at a range of 5.25 to 5.5. Traders will listen closely to the Fed Chair Jerome Powell coming up here in about 20 minutes. We'll actually have that on. We'll find that on here, and we'll see exactly what. Let me see if I can. This takes me to it. Yes, we got 21 minutes. So I'll leave this here, and we'll actually listen in to see what Fed Chair Mr. Powell has to say as we get into that here in a little bit. So we'll have some more information from him, and we'll get to listen to the whole thing. We'll listen to what he says. We'll listen to the questions and answers that are coming in. So we'll keep that kind of on update. We'll keep that on update, and so we will we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But that really is kind of the big news of the day, as we don't have a rate hike, and so we'll see what Mr. Jerome Powell says here in just a minute in his press conference. We got about 20 minutes, which gives us enough time. To kind of talk about what's going on in the markets and things like that. Really, again, no real big stories outside of the Fed rate hike and them not raising it. So we'll have that here in just a second. But like I said, outside of that, not a lot going on. Even on CoinDesk, it's the big story right now is, which is what I had pulled up, the same thing, which is the Fed chair not making a hike. But on that one there itself was actually talking a little bit more about Bitcoin. Fed announced that announced its rate decision for Wednesday at 1400 Eastern time. The way Bitcoin options are priced suggests that cryptocurrency may not move more than 3% by Friday. So we may not see a whole lot happen before Friday. So we can kind of continue in on this sideways trading that we've had for this week, and so we'll probably continue that up coming in. So like I said, we will listen to what Jerome Powell says. We'll listen to the questions and answers that he gets and gives. So we will see. But this is saying that Bitcoin options expiring Friday suggest that cryptocurrency may not move more than 3% post the Fed announcement. So we're going to tune in and listen. We are going to tune in and listen and see exactly what they got going on. So that's kind of where we are right now, waiting for Mr. Jerome Powell. We got about 20 minutes before he goes live. We'll tune in and listen to that as well. Jorge, what's good, brother? What is good? Jorge in the building. What's good, brother? How you doing? You see me? I got my cowboy shirt on. You know what I'm saying? We repping them boys. We them boys. So I left my cowboy hat downstairs. Otherwise, I would have worn my Cowboys hat. Well, what's good, man? How you doing? So that's kind of the big news in the overall global spectrum of crypto and things like that. But right here we still talk about a lot of growth, a lot happening. A lot of the testing, is kind of starting to ramp up, especially for Growth Keeper. We do have our mega space tonight, which is in the description. I went ahead and put it in the description early today. Look at me being on top of that. Super excited that I was able to do that on top before and not have to do it in the middle of the stream. So 2 days in a row, man. Like, you feeling okay, bro? 2 days in a row, you okay? No, brother. Hopefully you're doing well. I think I asked you yesterday about seminary. Are you still in seminary school? How's school going? Did you finish? And if not, hopefully it's going well. All that good stuff. But I am glad that you're able to join us 2 days in a row. Miss you, man. You were here all the time, and then you ain't been here in a minute. So I'm glad to see you stopping by and being able to join in for a minute. Definitely appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come hang out with us on the show. Oh, show. But yeah, so we do have our Grove Live Mega Space tonight. That's going to go down at 8:30 tonight. 8:30 Eastern time tonight is when that bad boy will go live. It'll be me. We'll have Mac over there. We'll talk about what John G talked about last week and some updates this week as well as some listing announcements and things like that we've talked about. So it'll be a good time over there tonight. It'll be a good time tonight over there on the Mega Space. As we kind of start, we'll probably have some talks about the Growth Keeper testing that's about to probably go live. I think John said tomorrow. So I had to hop out, so I missed that. But yeah, bro, I've been grinding. School is harder than I remembered. Yeah, absolutely. I don't miss school at all. Definitely don't miss school at all, at all. Which is why I'm a YouTuber, so I don't have to go to school. Oh man, but man, I'm glad you are able to jump in and hang out with us for a little while. And no matter what, man, we definitely appreciate you for coming by and hanging out with us for sure. Definitely always a good time when Jorge stops by, even though he calls me old. Even though he calls me old. I'm actually going to try to see if I can have that pulled up. There we go. That's what I want right there. That's what I want. So we got that set. That's locked and loaded. So we'll be ready to rock and roll as soon as Mr. Jerome Powell does go live. And I'll actually put it down here on the bottom so I can see it to make sure that when he does go live, I'm ready. So we got it there. There's the YouTube, and then I'll just drop it down. I'll just drop it down. So, but yeah, like I said, it's not a lot of new news today. We talked a lot of yesterday about what was going on, and things that we had coming up. So, any suggestions? Absolutely, Shane. You can always put your suggestions in there for sure. Unless it's about the cowboy shirt, I'm not taking it off. For sure. I hope you're doing well, brother. Old or not, and I'm doing well. Doing well. Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. But yeah, Shane, I'm curious to see what Shane has for a suggestion. I'm interested. I'm interested. What is the suggestion of? I feel like my arms look really good in this shirt. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's super tight. Like because I've gained weight instead of lost weight. Lost weight, maybe. I don't know. I feel like my arms look good in this shirt. Maybe I need to wear this shirt more often. Could be just me. Oh man, man, I'm just sitting here patiently waiting to see what Shane's gonna say. King's broadcast in the building. What's good, man? How you doing, brother? How you doing? Maybe have some Grove team guests on the show. Maybe Simon, Sean, Alex, Rolf. It's daytime there still. Spice it up for an hour. I'm sure they would be down for that. Absolutely, absolutely. We definitely can. We definitely can do that. We used to have a Grove day where Ms. Mindy came and joined us. So we had Mac on a couple of times. So yeah, we can definitely reach out and maybe set something like that up for sure, for sure. I know Simon. Simon is what is it's what UK time. So let me see. Let me go to my global clock here on my phone and see what time it is for all of those folks. So it's I think it's like two. It's like 2 in the morning for Raul. Um, it's 7:15 in London. So Sean and Simon, they should be able to make it on here. And I don't remember where Alex is. I don't remember where Alex. But yeah, I'm sure we could probably set something like that up for sure. Brother, I'm doing good, King. Doing well. Nothing new really. Just groving away and YouTube. Not playing a lot of golf. That's about it. Yeah, not a whole lot new. Not a whole lot new. Just building with Grove and getting it in there. So doing this is trying to be as consistent as we can be here, especially during this slow time in the market. It's rough out here. It's hard to come in here and put on a show and put on a stream for to talk crypto, but there's not a lot of crypto news. And I don't necessarily want to talk about the dramas of what's going on, the soap opera of crypto. There's always BitBoy news or Ben Armstrong now, no longer BitBoy crypto. We could dive into that soap opera. We could get into the Sam Bankman-Fried soap opera. I just don't feel like necessarily getting into drama. And but some folks out there enjoy that. Some folks out there enjoy that. But I just drama ain't my thing. It just ain't my thing. I say we just lock Sam Bateman up, give him max, call it a day. And then Bit Boy, or Ben Armstrong, I had no idea what's going on with that whole, situation. But hopefully all that gets resolved and everybody's able to move on amicably. Yeah, I don't feel like I can't say that word. Amicably. You know what I'm trying to say. Amicably. Amicably. God, what is the word? How do you pronounce? How do you say that word? You have to like Google how to say that. Amicable. Amicably. Yeah, that word. Amicable. Amicably. Yeah, I literally had to Google that. I was not figuring that out. Amicably. God, that was words are struggles. Words are struggles. Jay says I will give away a Grove keychain every time that happens. I have enough of them. Maybe I can retrofit them into Christmas tree ornaments. Hey, which is not far away. That'd be solid. That'd be solid. Well, I'll definitely get with those guys and we'll see what we can do. And try to get some Grove time on here. We'll try to find a day and a time for them whenever they're whatever best for them. But I feel like that could be something we could do. Like we could do something like that for sure. For sure. And the fact that you said you can turn those into like a retrofit those into a Christmas tree ornament, that'd be fire. That would be fire. Absolutely. We do got about 10 minutes before Jerome Powell speaks, so we got that up here. Don't forget, we are going to listen to that. And so as soon as that, we got 9 minutes and 45 seconds. So as soon as that goes live, we'll take a break here and we'll put that on and we'll listen in to see exactly what he's got to say. So yeah, I feel like that because there's no rate hike today. They didn't announce that, so it could be like the first pause we've had in a while. So we'll see what see what he has to say. I'm really interested in the questioning, see what kind of questions and answers he gives. That really is kind of going to give us a lot of good information there. So, like I said, we less than 10 minutes before that goes down, and then we'll get into it. So, but yeah, again, don't forget tonight we do have our Grove Live Mega Space. Grove Live Mega Space is going live tonight. It is in the description, so if you want to check that out, go set your reminder. Just click on the link in the description, and you will be able to get it in there, right that, like that. Come over here and check out GroveX. I'll make sure I don't have any new listings that I've missed. I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Oh, actually, we do have this one right here that we can kind of talk about real quick. So we ran a little contest the other day over on GroveX. Here is the actual contest. Vote for your top projects for a complimentary listing on GroveX. We had Arcan, WorldPoint, and Lovely. And so it looks like Lovely won by a large percentage out of like 3,000 votes. It's pretty solid. And most of those votes coming in for Lovely. So congratulations to Lovely. Congratulations to Lovely Finance and Community. You have won a free listing on GroveX. Based on the poll results below, please have one of your team reach out to one of our three dedicated listing managers, Simon, Raouf, Armour, Sean, or Mac, to arrange the listing. So there it is right there. Congratulations to Lovely Finance winning that poll and getting a complimentary GroveX listing. So pretty solid there. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. Very cool. So I love the fact that we kind of do things like that. We're starting to see more and more of these little GroveX games and riddles and things like that. Very cool. Very cool. I'm digging that for sure. Definitely digging that. So pretty solid. So congratulations to Lovely. If somebody from the Lovely community is listening, have one of your team members reach out to one of our listing managers, and we can get that the ball rolling on that. So, but like I said, we will have Mr. Jerome Powell on here pretty soon, and so that's kind of what we're waiting on right now. We got about 6 7 minutes before that gets in there. We get going live with that right there. As we see the timer, we are 6 minutes and 45 seconds. 6 minutes and 45 seconds, and so we'll listen to that, see what they got to say, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. Usually about an hour, so something like that, 45 minutes. Well, it just depends on how many questions he's willing to take and all that. But I have a feeling with the pause for September no high rate, we could see some more questions. Boom. But yeah, other than that, not a lot happening in crypto outside of the like I said, the Ben Armstrong and Ben Boy crypto, and S S Sam Bankman-Fried is just, he seems to always be in the news. I'm over it. I'm overhearing that guy's name. Not gonna lie. Not going to lie. I'm overhearing his name. But we will go ahead and I keep doing that. I keep pulling it up there and then sharing something else. You can't come over here to CoinDesk and just kind of see what all CoinDesk has going on. Come over here to their live wire and see. Hopefully, it's not just 15 articles on Sam Bankman-Fried, but as we know, it probably is. As we see the first one, Sam Bankman-Fried, Protocol Village. Not a lot happening. Bitcoin ETF has golden parallels from history. So hey, gold ETF dramatically shook up markets. A spot Bitcoin ETF could do the same. I definitely agree. I definitely agree that I think that if we could get these Bitcoin ETFs, that's really going to do a lot for the markets, especially for crypto and things like that. When you going to visit, looks like you need some beach time. Facts, I do. All it's going to cost is a tank of gas and a 12-hour drive. I mean, I might take two tanks of gas. I actually think I might have some. I think I have some flyers, some credits over on American. I could just fly. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I could definitely use some beach time. I could use a vacation where I'm not working. And because I've been able to do some traveling, but like the travel has been like going to expos and working 8 9 10 hours a day at the expos, which are a lot of fun. Like a vacation to where like I could just go sit on a beach, do a whole lot of nothing, do a stream from the beach. That'd be pretty cool. I might have to set that up. We might have to get together and talk about that. So we might have to get together and talk about that, because I would definitely be in on something like that. Maybe we can talk Cuff into taking a trip, and we both come take a trip and come hang out. We haven't been able to do a. We went to Vegas. Me, you, and Cuff went to Vegas. We still had expos to go to. So even that one was not quite a vacation. We had a good time. We made it a vacation, but we still had a little work in between there. So you'll have to set that up. I have empty bedrooms for family and friends. Hey, shoot, I'll talk to him for sure. And if he don't come, I may come by myself. Just say screw it, jump in the truck and go. Just jump in the truck and go. He might. I don't. He might put his toes in the water. We know Cup and his love for water, which is not at all at all. Like I don't think he likes the water at all. But yeah, he might put his toes in the water just to say he did it. You never know. Who knows? Who knows? I'll have to I'll have to run it by him. But like I said, I could make that trip on my own and just come put my feet in the sand for a minute. I would be down for that. I need my feet in some sand. My, yeah, sand. My butt in some sand. Feet in the water. Get away. Day or two of not the same. Yeah, I think I still have the NFT. Which NFT? There were so many. Which NFT? I think wasn't there like an NFT of Cup in the water? I don't remember. There's been so many NFTs that have been made from us streaming together. So many. That's funny though. Maybe we can do we could have a podcast style stream where you got me and Cuff sitting on the beach. Cuff might enjoy the beach. I don't know about him getting in the actual water, but I'm in. I'm in. It's not that bad of a drive. You say it's 12 hours, so I can probably make it in. I can probably make it in 10. Not not bad. It's like going. It'd just be like going to the other side of Texas. I can get to the other side of Texas in about 8 hours, 9 hours. All right, so we are live now. We're just waiting on Mr. Jerome Powell to grace us with his appearance. So as soon as he gets on there, I'll mute myself and we'll get in there and listen to what he has to say. It shouldn't be too long. They just turn the camera on, so I imagine he will be coming on very soon. Ah, you're good, brother. You're good. We'll listen in to Mr. Jerome Powell here and see what he has to say, and then we'll listen to the question in the Q&A portion afterwards. That's when a lot of the good information comes. So we will listen in live here on the Midday Mix and see exactly what is going on, what all he has to say. Like I said, it shouldn't be too long. You should be walking out any second. They turn the camera on. That means somebody's ready. I just heard somebody say 2 minutes. So, let me know how's the volume? Can you hear the people talking in the background? There's just a little static noise. Let me know if I need to bring the volume up. I know it's exactly 12 hours from San Antonio. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly where you are, but Google it real Google Map it. You're what, in South Florida? You're in South Florida, right? From Dallas to there is 10 hours and 30 minutes. I can get there in 9. I can probably cut an hour. I'm probably cut an hour and a half off. Stop just to fill up. I don't have to fill up like I could probably fill up once on the way there and then once on the way back. Yeah, I think I get like 550 to the gallon, 550 to the tank, something like that. That ain't bad. That ain't bad. I'd make that trip. Might be a little further from you to Chicago. All right, here we go, y'all.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Another volume.
My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. We understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. Price stability is the responsibility of the Federal Reserve. Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. Since early last year, the FOMC has significantly tightened the stance of monetary policy. We've raised our policy interest rate by 5.25 percentage points and have continued to reduce our securities holdings at a brisk pace. We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt. Today, we decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged and to continue to reduce our securities holdings. Looking ahead, we're in a position to proceed carefully in determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate. Our decisions will be based on our ongoing assessments of the incoming data and the evolving outlook and risks. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that economic activity has been expanding at a solid pace. And so far this year, growth in real GDP has come in above expectations. Recent readings on consumer spending have been particularly robust. Activity in the housing sector has picked up somewhat, though it remains well below levels of a year ago, largely reflecting higher mortgage rates. Higher interest rates also appear to be weighing on business fixed investment. In our Summary of Economic Projections, or SEP, committee participants revised up their assessments of real GDP growth, with the median for this year now at 2.1%. Participants expect growth to cool, with the median projection falling to 1.5% next year. The labor market remains tight, but supply and demand conditions continue to come into better balance. Over the past 3 months, payroll job gains averaged 150,000 jobs per month, a strong pace that is nevertheless well below that seen earlier in the year. The unemployment rate ticked up in August, but remains low at 3.8%. The labor force participation rate has moved up since late last year, particularly for individuals aged 25 to 54 years. Nominal wage growth has shown some signs of easing, and job vacancies have declined so far this year. Although the jobs to workers gap has narrowed, labor demand still exceeds the supply of available workers. FOMC participants expect the rebalancing in the labor market to continue, easing upward pressures on inflation. The median unemployment rate projection in the SEP rises from 3.8% at the end of this year to 4.1% over the next 2 years. Inflation remains well above our longer run goal of 2%. Based on the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, and other data, we estimate that total PCE prices rose 3.4% over the 12 months ending in August, and that excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 3.9%. Inflation has moderated somewhat since the middle of last year, and longer-term inflation expectations appear to remain well anchored, as reflected in a broad range of surveys of households, businesses, and forecasters, as well as measures from financial markets. Nevertheless, the process of getting inflation sustainably down to 2% has a long way to go. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation is 3.3% this year, falls to 2.5% next year, and reaches 2% in 2026. The Fed's monetary policy actions are guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship as it erodes purchasing power, especially for those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We are highly attentive to the risks that high inflation poses to both sides of our mandate, and we are strongly committed to returning inflation to our 2% objective. As I noted earlier, since early last year, we have raised our policy rate by 5.25 percentage points. We see the current stance of monetary policy as restrictive, putting downward pressure on economic activity, hiring, and inflation. In addition, the economy is facing headwinds from tighter credit conditions for households and businesses. In light of how far we have come in tightening policy, the committee decided at today's meeting to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 5.25 to 5.5%, and to continue the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings. We are committed to achieving and sustaining a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to bring inflation down to our 2% goal over time. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. If the economy evolves as projected, the median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 5.6% at the end of this year, 5.1% at the end of 2024, and 3.9% at the end of 2025. Compared with our June summary of economic projections, the median projection is unrevised for the end of this year, but has moved up by 0.5 percentage point at the end of the next 2 years. These projections, of course, are not a committee's decision or plan. If the economy does not evolve as projected, the path of policy will adjust as appropriate to foster our maximum employment and price stability goals. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting based on the totality of the incoming data and their implications for the outlook for economic activity and inflation, as well as the balance of risks. Given how far we have come, we are in a position to proceed carefully as we assess the incoming data and the evolving outlook and risks. Real interest rates now are well above mainstream estimates of the neutral policy rate, but we are mindful of the inherent uncertainties in precisely.
What's up, brother? We're just listening to the Fed Jerome Powell right now.
We're prepared to raise rates further if appropriate, and we intend to hold policy at a restrictive level until we're confident that inflation is moving down sustainably toward our objective. In determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate to return inflation to 2% over time, the committee will take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy, the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity and inflation, and economic and financial developments. We remain committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal and to keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Reducing inflation is likely to require a period of below-trend growth and some softening of labor market conditions. Restoring price stability is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum employment and stable prices over the longer run. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Colby Smith with the Financial Times. What makes the committee inclined to think that the Fed funds rate at this level is not yet sufficiently restrictive, especially when officials are forecasting a slightly more benign inflation outlook for this year? There's noted uncertainty about policy lags. Headwinds have emerged from the looming government shutdown, the end of federal childcare funding, resumption of student debt payments, things of that nature.
Right. So I guess I would characterize the situation a little bit differently. So we decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate where it is at 5.25 to 5.5%, while continuing to reduce our securities holdings. And we say we're committed to achieving and sustaining a stance of monetary policy that's sufficiently restrictive to bring down inflation to 2% over time. We said that. But the fact that we decided to maintain the policy rate at this meeting doesn't mean that we've decided that we have or have not at this time reached that stance of monetary policy that we're seeking. If you looked at the SEP, as you obviously will have done, you will see that a majority of participants believe that it is more likely than not that it will be appropriate for us to raise rates one more time in the 2 remaining meetings this year. Others believe that we have already reached that. So it's something where we're not making a decision by deciding to about that question, by deciding to just maintain the rate and await further data.
So right now, it's still an open question about sufficiently restrictive. You're not saying today that we've reached this level.
We're not saying, yeah, no, clearly we are just, what we decided to do is maintain the policy rate and await further data. We want to see convincing evidence, really, that we have reached the appropriate level. And you know, we're seeing progress, and we welcome that. But, you know, we need to see more progress before we'll be willing to reach that conclusion.
And just on the 2024 projections, what's behind that shallower path for interest rate cuts and the need for real rates to be 50 basis points higher?
Right. So I would say it this way. First of all, real interest rates are positive now. They're meaningfully positive. And that's a good thing. We need a policy to be restrictive so that we can get inflation down to target. Okay. And we're going to need that to remain to be the case for some time. So I think, you know, remember that of course, the SEP is not a plan that is negotiated or discussed really as a plan. It's accumulation, really. And what you see are the medians. It's accumulation of individual forecasts from 19 people. And then what you're seeing are the medians. So I wouldn't want to, you know, bestow upon it the idea that that's really a plan. But what it reflects, though, is that economic activity has been stronger than we expected, stronger than I think everyone expected. And so what you're seeing is this is what people believe as of now will be appropriate to achieve what we're looking to achieve, which is progress toward our inflation goal, as you see in the SEP.
Thanks. Let's go to Rachel.
Hi, Chair Powell. Rachel Siegel from the Washington Post. Thanks for taking our questions. How would you characterize the debate around another hike or holding steady? Is it discussion around lag times, fear of too much slowing, too little slowing? Could you walk us through what this disagreement was about at the meeting?
Yeah, so the proposal at the meeting was to maintain our current policy stance. And I think there was obviously unanimous support for that. But this, of course, is an SEP meeting. And so people write down what they think. And you have some, you saw, I think 7 wrote down no hike at this meeting or between now and the end of the year. And I think 12 wrote down another single hike in one of the next 2 meetings that we have between the end of the year. So it wasn't like we were arguing over that. People just stating their positions. And really what people are saying is, let's see how the data come in. You know, we want to see, you know what we want to see. We want to see that these good inflation readings that we've been seeing for the last 3 months, we want to see that it's more than just 3 months, right? We want to see, you know, the labor market report that we received, the last one that we received, was a good example of what we do want to see. It was a combination of across a broad range of indicators, continuing rebalancing of the labor market. So those are the 2 things. Those are our 2 mandate variables, and that's the progress that we want to see. But I think people, they want to be convinced, you know, they want to be careful not to jump to a conclusion really one way or the other, but just be convinced that the data, you know, support that conclusion. And that's why, given how far we've come and how quickly we've come, we're actually in a position to be able to proceed carefully as we assess the incoming data and the evolving outlooks and risks and make these decisions meeting by meeting.
And in your view, I know nothing has been decided yet, but what would one more hike at the end of the year do to the economy or to inflation? And on the other side, what would no hike do, if you could sort of game that out for us?
So, you know, you can make the argument that one hike one way or the other won't matter. But for us, we're trying, obviously as a group, it's a pretty tight cluster of where we think that policy stance might be. But we're always going to be learning from data. You know, we've learned all through the course of the last year that actually we needed to go further than we had thought. If you go back a year and what we wrote down, it's actually gotten higher and higher. So we don't really know and that's why, again, we're in a position to proceed carefully at this point. A year ago, we proceeded pretty quickly to get rates up. Now we're fairly close, we think, to where we need to get. It's just a question of reaching the right stance. I wouldn't attribute huge importance to one hike in macroeconomic terms. Nonetheless, you know, we need to get to a place where we're confident that we have a stance that will bring inflation down to 2% over time. That's what we need to get to. And we've been moving toward it as we've gotten closer to it. We've slowed the pace at which we've moved. I think that was appropriate. And now that we're getting closer, we have the ability to proceed carefully.
Let's go to Steve.
Steve Leisman, CNBC. Mr. Chairman, I want to return to Colby's question here. What is it saying about the committee's view of the inflation dynamic in the economy that you achieve the same forecast inflation rate for next year, but need another 0.5 point of the funds rate on it? Does it tell us that the committee believes inflation to be more persistent, requires more medicine effectively? And I guess a related question is, if you're going to project a funds rate above the longer run rate for 4 years in a row, at what point do we start to think, hey, maybe the longer rate or the neutral rate is actually higher? Thank you.
So I guess I would point more to, rather than pointing to a sense of inflation having become more persistent, I wouldn't think that's not, we've seen inflation be more persistent over the course of the past year, but I wouldn't say that's something that's appeared in the recent data. It's more about stronger economic activity, I would say. So if I had to attribute one thing, again, we're picking medians here and trying to attribute one explanation, but I think broadly, stronger economic activity means rates. We have to do more with rates, and that's what that meaning is telling you. In terms of what the neutral rate can be, we know it by its works. We only know it by its works, really. We can't the models and that we use. You ultimately only know when you get there, and by the way the economy reacts. And again, that's another reason why we're moving carefully now, because there are lags here. So that it may of course be that the neutral rate has risen. You do see people. You don't see the median moving, but you do see people raising their estimates of the neutral rate, and it's certainly plausible that the neutral rate is higher than the longer run rate. Remember, what we write down in the SEP is the longer run rate. It is certainly possible that that the neutral rate at this moment is higher than that, and that's part of the explanation for why the economy has been more resilient than expected.
Let's go to Howard.
Howard Schneider with Reuters. Thank you. So you've said several times that the economy needed a period of below trend growth to get inflation consistently back to 2%. You kind of get that in 2024 a little bit. 1.5% is just a touch below what's the estimate of potential. So the fact that you're getting so much done at so much less cost, does that represent a change in how you think inflation works, a change in how you think the economy works, a change in the mix of supply healing versus demand destruction that's necessary to achieve this?
Yes, of course, it is a good thing that we've seen now meaningful rebalancing in the labor market without an increase in unemployment, and that's because we're seeing that rebalancing in other places, in, for example, job openings, and in the jobs worker gap. You're also seeing supply side things, so that's happening. I would say, though, I still think, and I think broadly people still think, that there'll have to be some softening in the labor market that can come through more supply, as we've seen as well. Also, remember, the natural rate we think is coming down, which is a supply side thing, so that the gap between any given unemployment rate that's lower than that and the natural rate comes down. That's a way for that's a way for the labor market to achieve a better balance. So all of those things are happening. You're right. In the median forecast, we don't see a big increase in unemployment. We do see an increase. And but that really is just playing forward the trends that we've been seeing. That is not guaranteed. There may come a time when unemployment goes up more than that, but that's really what we've been seeing, is progress without higher unemployment for now.
So just to boil that down for a second, we've gone from a very narrow path to a soft landing to something different. Would you call the soft landing now a baseline expectation?
No, I would not do that. I would just say, what would I say about that? I've always thought that the soft landing was a plausible outcome. that there was a path really to a soft landing. I've thought that, and I've said that since we lifted off. It's also possible that the path is narrowed and it's widened. Apparently, ultimately, this may be decided by factors that are outside our control at the end of the day. But I do think it's possible, and I also think this is why we're in a position to move carefully again. That we will restore price stability. We know that we have to do that, and we know the public depends on us doing that. And we know that we have to do it so that we can achieve the kind of labor market that we all want to achieve, which is an extended period, sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. We know that. The fact that we've come this far lets us really proceed carefully, as I keep saying. So I think, that's the end we're trying to achieve. I wouldn't want to handicap the likelihood of it, though. It's not up to me to do that.
Nick Tamaros of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, both you and Vice Chair Williams have indicated that sufficiently restrictive will be judged on a real rather than nominal basis, implying some scope for nominal rate cuts next year, provided further compelling evidence that price pressures will continue to subside. Is the FOMC focused on targeting a real level of policy restriction? And can you explain what would constitute enough evidence that will allow the FOMC to normalize the nominal stance of policy while keeping real policy settings sufficiently restrictive?
I mean, yes, we understand that it's a real rate that will matter and that it needs to be sufficiently restrictive. Again, I would say, sufficiently restrictive only when you see it. It's not something you can arrive at with confidence in a model or in various estimates. And so what are we seeing? We're seeing, through a combination of the unwinding of the pandemic-related demand and supply distortions and monetary policies work in suppressing demand or alleviating very high demand. The combination of those two things is actually working. You're seeing, inflation coming down. It's principally now in goods, also in housing services. You begin to see effects of it in non-housing services as well. So we think that is working. And I think as we've said, we want to reach that. We want to reach something that we're confident it gets us to that level. And I think confidence comes from seeing, enough data that you feel like, yes, okay, this feels like we can for now decide that this is the right level and just agree to stay here. We're not permanently deciding not to go higher, but we would, let's say if we get to that level. And then the question is, how long do you stay at that level? And that's a whole nother set of questions. For now, the question is trying to find that level where we think we can stay there. And we haven't gotten to a point of confidence about that yet. That's the stage we're at, though.
But it looks like because there was an across-the-board drop in the core PCE inflation projection for this year, and even then it seems possible that core PCE inflation could come in even lower than the median at 3.7%. Would you see a case to raise rates still if it turned out that you were going to achieve the same real rate this year because the decline in inflation proceeds somewhat better than you currently anticipate?
The decision that we make at each meeting, and certainly at the last two meetings this year, it's going to depend on the totality of all the data. So the inflation data, the labor market data, the growth data, the balance of risks and the other events that are happening out there. We take all of that into account. So I can't really answer a hypothetical about one piece of that. It'll be trying to reach a judgment over whether we should move forward with another rate hike overall, and whether that would increase our confidence that yes, this is an appropriate move, and it will help us be more confident that we've gotten to the level that we need to get to.
Gina.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Following up on Nick's question, actually, John Williams, the New York Fed president, obviously has said things to the effect of next year, as we see inflation kind of, again, to Nick's point, as we see inflation coming down, we're going to need to reduce interest rates to make sure that we're not squeezing the economy harder and harder over time. And I wonder if that's basically the logic that you apply. Is that how you think about it? And then I also wonder, in the last press conference, you said something to the effect of, it's a full year out, those discussions, and people interpreted that to mean that you didn't see a possibility of a rate cut in the first half of next year. And I wonder if that was what you meant by that, or whether, how you're thinking about that timing.
No, when I answer these questions about hypotheticals about cutting, I'm never intending to send a signal about timing. I'm just answering them as the question is expressed. So please, I wouldn't want to be taken that way. Sorry, the first question was that how? Yeah. So we're as we go into next year, that's the question we'll be asking. Is taking into account lags and everything else we know about the economy and everything we know about monetary policy. The time will come at some point, and I'm not saying when, that it's appropriate to cut. Part of that may be that real rates are rising because inflation is coming down. Part of it just may be that it'll be all the factors that we see in the economy, and that time will certainly come at some point. And what you see is us writing down a year ahead estimates of what that might be. And there's so much uncertainty around that. When we in the moment, we'll do what we think makes sense. No one will look back at this and say, hey, we made a plan. It's not like that at all. These are estimates made a year in advance that are highly uncertain, and that's how it is.
Neil.
Thanks so much, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios. Wonder, how do you think about the question of whether the strong GDP growth we've been seeing is driven by excess demand versus supply side factors, productivity, labor force growth? And relatedly, if GDP keeps coming in hot, even in the absence of inflation resurgence, would that on its own be a reason to consider more tightening?
So on your first question, I mean, we're looking at GDP very, very carefully to try to understand really what's the direction of it, what's driving it, and it's a lot of consumer spending. The consumer's been very robust in spending. So that is, that's how we're looking at it. Sorry, your second question was?
There's GDP stays hot, but without inflation.
So I think the question will be, GDP is not a mandate, right? Maximum employment and price stability are the mandates. The question will be, is GDP, is the heat that we see in GDP, is it really a threat to our ability to get back to 2% inflation? That's going to be the question. It's not a question about GDP on its own. It's you're expecting to see this improvement, continued rebalancing in the labor market and inflation moving back down to 2% in a sustainable way. We have to have confidence in that, and we'd be looking at GDP just to the extent that it threatens one or both of those.
Victoria.
Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. There are multiple external factors that are playing out right now. We see rising oil prices. We see auto workers striking. There's the looming, very real possibility of a government shutdown. And I was just wondering, for each of those things, could you talk about how you're thinking about how that might affect the course for the Fed and the economy?
So there is a long list, and you hit some of them, but it's the strike, it's government shutdown, resumption of student loan payments, higher long-term rates, oil price shock. There are a lot of things that you can look at, and so what we try to do is assess all of them and handicap all of them. And ultimately, though, there's so much uncertainty around these things. I mean, to start with the strike, first of all, we absolutely don't comment on the strike, as we have no view on the strike one way or the other, but we do have to make an assessment of its economic effects to do our jobs. So, the thing about it is so uncertain. It will depend. The economic effects, it could affect, we've looked back at history, it could affect economic output, hiring, and inflation, but that's really going to depend on how broad it is and how long it's sustained for. And then it also depends on how quickly production can make up for lost production. So none of those things are known right now. It's very, very hard to know. So you just have to leave that uncertain, and we'll be learning, I think, over the course of the next intermeeting period, much more about that. And the same is true for the others. I don't know if you mentioned shutdown. I think of all of these as being on the list. We don't comment on that. it hasn't traditionally had much of a macroeconomic effect. Energy prices being higher, that is a significant thing. Energy prices being up can affect spending. It can affect over time. A sustained period of higher energy prices can affect consumer expectations about inflation. We tend to look through short-term volatility and look at core inflation. But so the question is, how long are higher prices sustained? We have to take those macroeconomic effects into account as well. Those are some of them. I'm not sure if I hit them all, but ultimately, you're coming into this with an economy that appears to have significant momentum, and that's what we start with. But we do have this collection of risks that you mentioned.
Craig Torres from Bloomberg News. I was a little surprised, Chair Powell, to hear you say that a soft landing is not a primary objective. This economy is seeing added supply in a way that could create long-term inflation stability. We have prime age labor force participation moving up where people can add skills. Workers want to work. We have a boom in manufacturing construction. We've had a decent spate of home building. And since inflation's coming down with strong GDP growth, we may have higher productivity. All are which good for the Fed's longer run target of low inflation. And if we lose that in a recession, aren't we opting for the awful hysteresis that we had in 2010? So are you taking this into account as you pursue policy? Thank you.
To begin, a soft landing is a primary objective, and I did not say otherwise. I mean, that's what we've been trying to achieve for all this time. The real point, though, is the worst thing we can do is to fail to restore price stability, because the record is clear on that. If you don't restore price stability, inflation comes back, and you go through, you can have a long period where the economy is just very uncertain, and it'll affect growth. It'll affect all kinds of things. It can be a miserable period to have inflation constantly coming back and the Fed coming in and having to tighten again and again. So the best thing we can do for everyone, we believe, is to restore price stability. I think now, today, we actually, we have the ability to be careful at this point and move carefully, and that's what we're planning to do. So we fully appreciate the benefits of being able to continue what we see already, which is rebalancing in the labor market and inflation coming down without seeing, an important, large increase in unemployment, which has been typical of other tightening cycles. So.
Hi, thank you. Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. When you look at the disinflation that has taken place so far, do you see it mostly as a result of what some economists are calling the low-hanging fruit, such as the unwinding of supply chain snarls and other pandemic disruptions, or is it more a broad disinflationary trend that involves most goods and services across the economy? Thank you.
So if I understood your question, I would say it this way. I think we knew from before when we lifted off, but certainly by the time we knew that bringing inflation back down was going to take, as I call it, the unwinding of these distortions to both supply and demand that happened because of the pandemic and the response. So that unwinding was going to be important. In addition, monetary policy was going to help. It was going to help supply side heal by cooling demand off, and just in general, better aligning supply with demand. So those two forces were always going to be important. It's very hard to pull them apart. They work together. I do think both of them are at work now, and I think they're at work in a way that shows you the progress that we are seeing.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Television and Radio. In June, you forecast a 5.6% year-end median Fed funds rate. And since then, you've more than doubled your growth forecast. You lowered your unemployment forecast significantly. So what would justify that last move? Because the median forecast is for lower inflation. And given all the known unknowns that you face, how much confidence do you have, can investors have, or the American people have in your forecasts?
Well, forecasts are highly uncertain. Forecasting is very difficult. Forecasters are a humble lot with much to be humble about. But to get to your question, though, what's happened is growth has come in stronger, right? Stronger than expected. And that's required higher rates. Unemployment, you also see that the ultimate unemployment rate is not as high, but that's really because of what we've been seeing in the labor market. We've seen more and more progress in the labor market without seeing significantly higher unemployment. So we're continuing that trend. In terms of inflation, you are seeing the last 3 readings are very, very good readings. It's only 3 readings. We were well aware that we need to see more than 3 readings. But if you look at June, July, and August, you're looking at really significant declines in core inflation, largely in the goods sector, also to some extent in housing services, and just a little in non-housing services. Those are the 3 buckets. Headline inflation, of course, has come way down, largely due to lower energy prices, some of which is now reversing. So I think people should know that economic forecasting is very difficult, and these are highly uncertain forecasts. But these are our forecasts. We have very high quality people working on these forecasts, and I think they stand up well against other forecasters. But just the nature of the business is the economy is very difficult to forecast.
Given the forecast that you have, what justified not moving today, and what could justify moving in the future if you think inflation is coming down? In other words, why did you leave that extra dot in?
Well, I think we have come very far, very fast in the rate increases that we've made. And I think it was important at the beginning that we moved quickly, and we did. And I think as we get closer to the rate that we think, the stance of monetary policy that we think is appropriate to bring inflation down to 2% over time, the risks become more two-sided. And the risk of over-tightening and the risk of under-tightening, it becomes more equal. And I think that the natural common sense thing to do is, as you approach that, you move a little more slowly as you get closer to it. And that's what we're doing. So we're taking advantage of the fact that we have moved quickly to move a little more carefully now as we sort of find our way to the right level of restriction that we need to get inflation back down to 2%.
Jennifer.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. With your focus on year-over-year PCE, isn't it true that base effects are huge, and that by the time you meet in November, that it's more likely that you'll have a low PCE number that would make you feel more comfortable? And secondly, how would the lack of key indicators like CPI, the jobs report, impact your approach in upcoming meetings if we were to have a government shutdown? Thank you.
Yeah, I missed the first question. What was it? What factors?
The base factors.
Base factors. Okay. So on that, we're looking at just monthly, right? You can look at just monthly readings and see what the increase was from the prior month. So you're right. When you go back 3, 6, and 12 months, you get base factors, but we can adjust for that. In terms of not getting data, again, we don't comment on government shutdowns. It's possible if there is a government shutdown and it lasts through the next meeting, then it's possible we wouldn't be getting some of the data that we would ordinarily get, and we would just have to deal with that. And I don't know. It's hard for me to say in advance how that would affect that meeting. It would depend on all kinds of factors that I don't know about now, but it's certainly a reality that's a possibility.
Would you feel more comfortable on the base effects that as those kind of fall out of the equation for the next couple of readings by November, would you feel more comfortable at that point?
Yes. I mean, if you're looking, if we can tell how much inflation has gone up in a given month, right? And that's what we're looking at. And month by month, what's the reading? And I think what we're really looking at is there's a tendency to look at shorter and shorter maturities, but they're incredibly volatile and they can be misleading. That's why we look at 12-month. But I think in this situation where it looks like we've had a bit of a turn in inflation starting in June, we're also looking at 6 months and even 3 months, but really 6 months inflation. So you're looking at it over that period and over longer periods. That's the right way to go. And we don't need to be in a hurry in getting to a conclusion about what to do. We can let the data evolve.
Thanks for the question, Chair Powell. Edward Lawrence with Fox Business. So I want to focus back in on oil prices. We're seeing oil prices, as you mentioned, move up, and that's pushing the price of gas. So how does that factor into your decision to raise rates or not? Because the last two inflation reports, PCE and CPI, we've seen the overall inflation has actually risen.
Right. So, energy prices are very important for the consumer. This can affect consumer spending. It certainly can affect consumer sentiment. I mean, gas prices are one of the big things that affects consumer sentiment. It really comes down to how persistent, how sustained these energy prices are. The reason why we look at core inflation, which excludes food and energy, is that energy goes up and down like that, and it doesn't. Energy prices mostly don't contain much of a signal about how tight the economy is, and hence don't tell you much about where inflation's really going. However, we're well aware, though, that if energy prices increase and stay high, that'll have an effect on spending, and it may have an effect on consumer expectations of inflation, things like that. That's just things we have to monitor. So.
On the consumer, they're putting more and more of this on their credit card. The consumer seeing a record credit spending. How long do you think the consumer can manage that debt at higher interest rates now? And are you concerned about a debt bubble related to that?
So to finish my prior thought, I was saying that's why we tend to look through energy moves that we can see as short-term volatility. Turning to consumer credit, of course, we watch that carefully. Consumer measures of distress among consumers were at historic lows quite recently, during and after the pandemic. They're now moving back up to normal. We're watching that carefully, but at this point, these readings they're not at troublingly high levels. They're just kind of moving back up to what was typical in the pre-pandemic era.
Hi, Jean Young with M&I Market News. Yields along the Treasury curve have risen to their highest in years. What is the Fed's view about what's been driving that increase in recent weeks, and how much of it can be attributed to macro explanations and how much to technical factors?
So you're right. Rates have moved up significantly. I think it's always hard to say precisely, but most people do a common decomposition of the increase, and the view will be it's not mostly about inflation expectations. It's mostly about other things, either term premium or real yields, and it's hard to be precise about this. Of course, everyone's got models that'll give you a very precise answer, but they give you different answers. So, but essentially, they're moving up because it's not because of inflation. It's because it'll probably have something to do with stronger growth. I would say more supply of treasuries. The common explanations that you hear in the markets kind of make sense.
Kyle Campbell, American Banker. Thank you for taking the questions. Just two on housing. You've said slower shelter cost growth is in the pipeline and will reflect in inflation readings as new leases are signed. But there's also some questions out there about the way housing costs are measured, particularly the use of rental equivalents, which are estimates from homeowners about what their homes would rent for if they were in the rental market. So my question is, how much of the effort to tame inflation, both as it's measured and felt by the broader public, hinges on housing supply? And then as far as a constrained housing supply being sort of exacerbated by this sort of lock-in effect of mortgages being higher now than they were at their recent historic lows, how is that going to impact future thinking about taking interest rates to that lower bound in the future?
So on the supply point, of course, supply is very important over time in setting house prices and for that matter, rents. And supply is kind of structurally constrained. But in terms of where inflation's going in the near term, though, as you obviously know, a lot of it is leases that are running off and then being re-signed or released at a level that's it won't be that much higher. A year ago it would have been much higher than it was a year before. Now it may be below or at the same level. So as those leases are rolling over, we're seeing what we expect, which is measured housing services inflation coming down. Your second question was the lock-ins. How much is that affecting things, really?
Is that going to affect your decisions to potentially bring rates down to their lower bound in the future, sort of creating that sort of bubble of buying and then a lock-in that sort of stagnates the housing market?
I think we look at I would look at the lock-in, the idea being that people are in very low rate mortgages. And even if they want to move now, it would be hard because the new mortgage would be so expensive. And that's explaining that's one of the explanations for what's happening broadly in the labor market. Would that play a role in our future decisions in a future loosening cycle about whether we would cut rates? No, I don't think it would. I mean, I don't think that's. I think we'd be looking at fundamentally what rates does the economy need, and in an emergency like the pandemic or during the global financial crisis, you have to cut rates to the point that you have to do what you can to support the economy. So I wouldn't think that would be a reason for us not to do that. It's not something we're thinking about at all right now, but down the road, I wouldn't think so.
Hi, Nancy Marshall-Genzer with Marketplace. Chair Powell, you've mentioned several things that would possibly weigh on consumer confidence, maybe cut back consumer spending, possible government shutdown, high gas prices. At this point, would the Fed welcome a decrease in consumer spending? Would that help you get inflation closer to your 2% target?
I wouldn't say it that way. We're not looking for a decrease in consumer spending. It's a good thing that the economy is strong. It's a good thing that the economy has been able to hold up under the tightening that we've done. It's a good thing that the labor market's strong. The only concern, and it just means this: if the economy comes in stronger than expected, that just means we'll have to do more in terms of monetary policy to get back to 2%, because we will get back to 2%. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I guess on the other hand, would you worry that that could contribute to an economic slowdown or even a recession?
Well, that's always a concern. I mean, concern number one is restoring price stability, because in the long run, that's something we have to do so that we can have the kind of economy we really want, which is one with sustained period of tight labor market conditions that benefit all, as I've said a couple times. So that said, of course, we also now, given how far we've come with our rate hikes and how quickly we've come here, we do have the ability to be careful as we move forward because of that consideration.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Simon Rabinovich with The Economist. One of the factors in the economic resilience to date appears to be a lesser degree of rate sensitivity than in the past. Obviously, we've talked about households with long fixed rate mortgages, also companies that refinanced before last year. What is your thinking about the efficacy of rates and how that's changed? And then related to that, how do you think about the distributional consequences, in the sense that if you're a relatively wealthy household with a long fixed rate mortgage, the past year has not been all that tough with rates going up. Whereas if you're relying on your credit card for supporting your consumption, in fact, times are getting a lot tougher, a lot more quickly. Thanks.
So I guess it's fair to say that the economy has been stronger than many expected, given what's been happening with interest rates. Why is that? Many candidate explanations. Possibly a number of them make sense. One is just that household balance sheets and business balance sheets have been stronger than we had understood, and so that's spending has held up and that kind of thing. We're not sure about that. The savings rate for consumers has come down a lot. The question is whether that's sustainable. It could just mean that the date of effect is later. It could also be that for other reasons, the neutral rate of interest is higher for various reasons. We don't know that. It could also just be that policy hasn't been restrictive enough for long enough. And there are many candidate explanations. We have to, in all this uncertainty, make policy. And I feel like what we have right now is what's still a very strong labor market, but that's coming back into balance. We were making progress on inflation. Growth is strong. but I think by many forecasts, many forecasts call for growth to moderate over the course of the next year. So that's where we are, and we have to deal with what comes. On your second question your second question was distributional, but can you be a little clearer about that?
Yeah, my point there was that if you're somebody who has a long fixed rate mortgage, you've been able to endure the higher rates relatively easily. If you're somebody who's living month to month off of your credit card, current financing rates are punitive.
Yes. And so the point I would make there is that we're trying to get inflation back down. The people who are most hurt by inflation are the people who are on a fixed income. If you're a person who spends all of your income, you don't really have any meaningful savings. You spend all your income on the basics of life: clothing, food, transportation, heating, the basics. And prices go up by 5, 6, 7%. You're in trouble right away. Whereas even middle class people have some savings and some ability to absorb that. So it is
oh, good brother, appreciate you, man.
As much as for anybody that we need to restore price stability, and we want to do it as quickly as possible. Obviously, we would like to do that. We'd like the current trend to continue, which is that we're making progress without seeing the kind of increase in unemployment that we've seen in past things. But you're right, though. When we raise rates, people who are who are living on credit cards and borrowing are going to feel that more. They are, and of course, people with lots of savings also have a much lower marginal propensity to consume, and so they're not going to. It's not going to affect them as much.
Let's go to Greg Robb for the last question.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Greg Robb from MarketWatch. In the Beige Book recently, you can tell that the Fed has been surveying nonprofits and community groups about the economic health of low-income Americans, moderate-income Americans. I have two questions about this. Are you going to use that data to maybe come up with a sort of like a quarterly survey of those groups, like the Senior Loan Officer Survey? And and also the second question is, from your recent readings of these surveys, how are low and moderate Americans doing? Is there this thing where like the GDP is strong because of wealthy Americans kind of driving things? I just want to get your sense of the health of that sector. Thank you.
So I don't know about the quarterly survey. That's an idea we can take away and think about. In terms of how low and moderate Americans, they're clearly we're suffering from high inflation. I think during the pandemic, the government transfers that happened were very meaningful. And if the surveys that we take showed that low and moderate income people were actually in very, very strong financial condition. I think now it's a very hot labor market, and you're seeing high nominal wages, and you're starting to see real wages are now positive by most measures. So I think overall households are in good shape. Surveys are a different thing. So surveys are showing dissatisfaction, and I think a lot of that is just people hate inflation, hate it. And that causes people to say the economy is terrible, but at the same time, they're spending money. Their behavior is not exactly what you would expect from the surveys. That's kind of a guess at what the answer might be. But I think there's a lot of good things happening on household balance sheets, and certainly in the labor market and with wages. The biggest wage increases having gone to relatively low wage jobs, and now inflation coming down, you're seeing real wages, which is a good thing. Thanks very much.
All right, so there we go. Got to hear Jerome Powell in the entire press conference there. So kind of takeaways that I kind of picked up on were, we started off really strong with the interest rate hikes, and now we are in a position to where we can responsibly kind of come back down and make this a soft landing. Now we'll have to see. But like you said, taking the 3 months that we've had, June, July, and August, you take those numbers and you start putting them together, looking much better, and things are moving a lot faster than moving a lot faster than anticipated. So that overall is a good thing. They did leave room for themselves to if they need to raise to raise the interest rate a little bit in the next couple of months. But we'll have to see how that plays out. I'd be kind of surprised if they ended up doing that, just because they could have done it now and then paused later. So could this be the beginning of a pause? Potentially. And then we could see potentially, in a few months, maybe beginning of next year, the rates start to come down, which would be very nice to see. So we'll have to see how the overall market. We can actually go take a look over here at CoinMarketCap together. I haven't looked at it yet, just to kind of see how that has impacted. And we're not seeing much. It's still kind of early. He just finished up. So we'll see, we'll kind of mark it down at, 27.1 for today. And then we'll come back tomorrow and see, if there are any changes, if there was a negative or a positive change and how the markets react to that. At the moment, nothing, not a lot of change at all. So still sitting there at 27,100 for Bitcoin, and we're sitting there at 1,630 for Ethereum. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow. We'll come back and then we'll see what that's looking like, how the markets react to that, and hopefully we have a better understanding of what the markets think of it. But hopefully y'all enjoyed and getting to hear the entire thing, the press conference, hearing his statements and then him taking questions and answers. So appreciate y'all for hanging out and tuning in with us. We're going to wrap it up here. We're going to get some food in my life and get ready for our Grove Live Mega Space going down tonight, 8:30 Eastern time. 8:30 Eastern time is when that's going to go down. Me and Mac will be over there. But I definitely appreciate y'all for hanging out and listening to that and getting a chance to hear what the Fed is going to do and the plans and why they made their move today to take a pause. So definitely appreciate y'all. Y'all are the best. Definitely love y'all. Y'all always show up, show love, and show support. We're gonna get up out of here, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll tap in and see how the markets react to it and things like that. So with that said, we are gonna get up out of here. Definitely appreciate y'all. Kind of a longer stream, an hour and a half today, but we had some good information coming from Mr. Powell there. So Crazy Too Cool, definitely appreciate you. Yeah, it's me, man. It's me. We were just listening to Mr. Jerome Powell. Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you tonight over on X, aka Twitter, aka Elon's Playground, whatever y'all want to call it. I don't even know. I don't even know what y'all want to call it these days. But we're gonna get up out of here. Appreciate y'all. Remember, 2 things in this world that you can control at all times: attitude and effort. Stay positive. Give 110% in everything you do. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Tell somebody you love them today. You never know. It may change their day, their week, their month, or even their year. Love y'all. We'll see y'all tonight on over on X. And if not, we'll be back here tomorrow. Same time, same vibe, same great channel. Until then, I'm out of here. I'm JustAman. Peace.